So earlier this week, Mutahar from the YouTube channel SomeOrdinaryGamers announced his new video on Twitter by showing its thumbnail and saying, uploaded a new video regarding a serious fraud of an activist known as Keffals. Over an hour of deconstructing her various lies and examining her terrible lies. Will prove to you why she is a danger to people they represent, and those surrounding them. However, Riz responds to Mutahar, and specifically the thumbnail of the video when they say, yeah, look, I don't like Keffals, but chill with the transphobic drawings, my man. Seven says, wow, you used such a good picture of her. Libs of DoorDash says, transphobia isn't cool, man. Miku says, what's with this picture? This is pretty bad, man. You did enough research for an hour plus of video, and couldn't find anything other than a disgusting caricature? You said multiple times talking to other people in the lead up to the video, you have to be careful talking about trans issues. You knew that going in, and you still use this drawing? How would you feel if someone made an exposed video on you and used a drawing with the typical racist caricatures that would apply to you? My White Ninja responds by saying, that's just a worm art, and Keffals herself used it by clipping it from another creator's thumbnail. Many YouTubers are using Just a Worm's art using for thumbnails, especially exposed. Miku responds, okay, and? There's no hateful tropes in the drawing of Vosh, unlike the Keffals drawing, and that's the concern I have. Although I didn't know that connection before you said it, all I see is a very transphobic image. Parappa the Gamer responds, what about this drawing is transphobic? Miku responds, I'm gonna block you. You know exactly why it is, and you are not worth discussing this with. Undead Reborn responds to Muta by saying, oh, that's a respected YouTuber shining a massive spotlight onto a transgender streamer who has been harassed, doxxed, and swatted several times, and had to flee the country getting a huge video dropped on her, using a grotesque caricature to advertise it whilst they-theming her. Like, Muta is, so far as I know, a pretty smart guy. Worley he knows what this kind of shit is gonna inspire in his community and orbit. Also, he did gender her correctly, my bad. Smaggledaggle responds by saying, you do realize she scammed 100k out of her fans, right? Undead Reborn responds, so I've heard. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what using a caricature will inspire, and already has in the comment section of a tweet by someone with under 60 followers. Smaggle responds, yeah, when you tweet out stupid shit, people respond. Reborn replies, is that why you were here? Smaggle responds, yeah. How about you actually watch the video first instead of bitching about the thumbnail? Reborn responds, the content of the video are irrelevant to the point I'm making about the thumbnail specifically. Maybe calm the fuck down before you comment and shit that's clearly above your pay grade, 8-buck dumb fuck. So after a couple other people reacted to Mutahar's thumbnail on Twitter, Keffals herself responded by saying, I understand people have criticisms of me. I don't think I am above being critiqued. That said, was it really necessary to use a transphobic caricature of me in the thumbnail, while also not using my pronouns in the video announcement? I think if my actions themselves are heinous, you wouldn't need to dehumanize me to an audience of millions of people in order to make the points you wanted to make. The bar for this was incredibly low, and Mutahar managed to still fumble it. Anyways, I'm probably going to get harassed by thousands of people for standing up for myself now, so I'm gonna do something fun instead of that. See you all when it dies down. Silver Keep responds by saying, is depicting everyone equally in your art style wrong? Repsion says, that dude makes caricatures of everybody. You were not special by labeling his art as transphobic. It isn't. Sensitive Society says, you got caught and exposed, you loser. I'm glad your career is over. Makes my day when people like you who always play the victim finally get called out. Send 100k my way next time. Mask Bastard says, it was just a photo of you ran through an image filter to look more like a comic strip. What's transphobic about reality? Purity Sin responds, it's actually done by Just a Worm Art, who is a fantastic artist. Only people without a sense of humor get pissy when he draws them, especially when he's dead on like this. Meme Bastard responds, oh, that guy's really good. Hoko Notism responds to Keffals by saying, you told kids to take shady black market HRT from a company owned by a Brazilian pedophile to play out groomer fantasies. In a just world, you'd have been arrested 6 times over. Nicholas Diorio responds to Keffals by saying, Keffals claims that this artwork by Just a Worm Art is transphobic, laughing my ass off. Is art that makes you look ugly transphobic? Does Keffals think all trans people are ugly? Not trans, by the way, and this is how I was drawn, lol, showing an art piece of himself that was made by Just a Worm. Too Damn Amica responds to Nick by saying, I don't know, man. I just can't imagine how anyone would believe Mutahar had bad intentions choosing that for his thumbnail with an audience like this, showing a bunch of tweets misgendering and being generally transphobic to Keffals. Nicholas responds by saying, "Now let's see your take on the content of the video, freak." Steve Aroni responds to Nick by saying, "It pretty freaking blatantly makes her look more masculine. Unless you think that's an accident." Nick responds, "It literally looks just like Keffals," laughing my fucking ass off. Turkey Tom responds to Keffals by saying, "You are just ugly, that's all." He then makes a follow-up tweet showing that he got blocked and says, "Keffals blocked me for posting this, but I will not be denied my Twitter engagement. So here you go." Larex responds to Keffals by quoting her saying, "While also not using my pronouns." He then says, "Wait, Mutahar referred to you as she/her in this tweet. Lol?" Keffals just detransitioned to try and escape this Mutahar video. Connor quote tweets Keffals and says, "Cause everyone is confused. Keffals is referring to Mutahar saying she is a danger to people they represent. Mutahar's transphobic now for using they. Am I crazy to think it's no longer possible to misgender Keffals cause she'll accuse you of misgendering regardless?" Smaggle responds by saying, "The craziest part is that he used she/her 3 times. Fluid says, stated in the video it's her common deflection tactic to call someone a transphobe to dodge all criticism. It's actually ironic and kinda sad to see her do it in real time like this." Anti-X shows the thumbnail of Mutahar's Keffals video and says, "I don't know how to say this without sounding a little SJW, but I'm really not a fan of this caricature of a trans woman. To the people talking about this just being the artist's style, all I'm going to say is, this is how he drew a cis woman, and that's how he drew a trans woman." He then shows Just a Worm's art of SS Sniper Wolf. Gayfesh responds by saying, "It's literally a transphobic caricature created by Kiwi Farms." Anti-X responds, "Why am I not surprised?" Gayfesh responds, "Last I checked, he was literally just going all in on the debunked Catboy Ranch allegations." Anti-X responds, "I figured the video would be DIY HRT is scary," and Kiwi Farms level talking points. Nick responds to Anti-X's initial tweet by saying, "Transphobia is when ugly." Dorian says, "I mean, that's not even particularly SJW. That's a disgusting picture, like what? No way he would give a cis woman a drawing like that." Anti-X responds, "Looking through the thumbnails for the first few months, this seems to be the only one close to that. Interesting." Swan Rosen says, "It's just their own style." Yeah, so were the drawings of blackface caricatures back in the day, and Muslim ones today. Trash drawings by trash people. The Omni Bully reacts to Anti-X by saying, "Does he think this supports his position?" laughing my fucking ass off. Shark Plays responds, "I think it's hilarious that out of the whole video, this is the thing they have a problem with. I know why. It's because Keffals told them to have a problem with it when she posted about it." Omni Bully responds, "Bingo." Trey responds to him by saying, "Arguably, the cis woman in question is drawn more disgusting than Keffals." The next day, Anti-X made some new tweets where they say, "I'm deleting the post that was here before so this can be the first thing. While I stand by my statement that I am not a fan of this thumbnail, I will say I have had someone who I trust tell me credible things about what she has actually done. Things regarding where money has gone from the GoFundMe, and various other things that have been lied about. So while it may not be the best thumbnail, there is some evidence in the video that I do think should be seen by people." Cat Fluffy quote tweets Anti-X with a picture of Keffals and says, "Keffals is a bad person, and we all have been knowing this. Personally, I've hated her for a long time. But like none of us should sit there and pretend Mutahar isn't transphobic after using this kind of caricature on a woman who looks like this." Topper Harley shows a different picture of Keffals and says, "Double chin? Check. Receding hairline? Check. Bags around eyes? Check. Prominent nasolabial folds? Check. Is it transphobic to depict Keffals accurately? Lol." MEX says, "From what I've understood, the artist came out and said that it wasn't meant to be transphobic. It's just their style and that's how they draw everyone. Can't link the post since they privated though." Cat Fluffy responds, "Yeah, still the fact he chose to use this one and consistently they thems her during the video is, Connor shows this 2-year-old tweet from Keffals where they say their preferred pronouns are she, her, or they, them, and captions it by saying, Oh, so Mutahar actually didn't use the incorrect pronouns as Keffals claimed. Another lie to add onto the ever-building pile. Larex responds, "It's so over," laughing my ass off. Trayton says, "It's like she wants people to call her the wrong pronouns or something." Dojangles quote tweets Connor and says, "The way she makes it harder on herself is amazing." Just a Worm responds to all of this on his Twitter by saying, "Okay, laughing my fucking ass off. 1. Yes, Mutahar hired me to make the Keffals art. It was a last-minute commission I drew in one night. It's not more complicated than that. 2. I draw everyone sweaty and gross. It's my stupid shtick. 3. Here's an updated thumbnail so that everyone gets roasted. He then shows a recreation of the thumbnail, but this time Mutahar is also drawn by Just a Worm, as well as Keffals. Just a Worm then shares more art he made and says, here's a sample of the art commissions I've done the last 3 weeks. Jojo Siwa was just for fun. I've been busy. There's one more commission I completed a while ago that I'll be releasing tomorrow. 2 hours later, he then tweets out, hey guys, going private for a bit. I didn't expect an art commission I took last minute to somehow pull me into the middle of a giant Twitter controversy, lol. Thanks for all the kind words and support I'm getting. More art still coming soon. The cartoon I drew of Keffals isn't transphobic. If anything, by my standards, I went easy laughing my ass off. People are just going after my cartoon because it's easier than addressing the content of Mutahar's video. And to be clear, I have no intention of changing my style in the future. Oh, and I'm staying private for a little longer because I think I'm getting mass reported. I'm trying to like tweets and it's not letting me, and saying I'm a spammer, laughing my fucking ass off. There are also plenty of trans people who've asked me for unflattering drawings of themselves, and I think it's funny. It's just the difference between people who have a sense of humor about this kind of dumb shit and those who don't. Also, since this is being spammed anyway, yes, Keffals used my Vosh art without permission or credit in a monetized YouTube thumbnail. I deleted this tweet because I had no interest into getting into drama over it. Guess my art is fine in thumbnails when Keffals uses it. To be clear, even with this current shit show, I still have zero interest in stupid internet slap fights. I'm just enjoying doodling and hopefully entertaining people. But we may as well set the record straight, since Keffals went after my cartoon over the content of Muta's video. Shortly after this, Just a Worm deactivated his Twitter account, and OmniBully tweets it out with the caption, Just a Worm is the latest victim of the great internet kerfuffle. Maniac responds, his Discord is also deactivated. Chris the Narc comments on this by saying, we lost one of the best artists in the community. Lost Sheep NZ tweets out this art piece and says, since Keffals decided to target my boy Just a Worm, let's see if she likes my artwork of her any better. Hashtag Justice for Worm. And with that tweet, a bit of a trend starts, as another artist called Razek quote tweets Lost Sheep and says, artists gotta stand up for other artists. So I decided to make an uglier Keffals in Just a Worm's honor. Hashtag Justice for Worm. The Clout Route says, come on, do you gotta be transphobic? Razek responds, I made her ugly, not manly. Check yourself. Lazy Shell responds to Lost Sheep with this artwork of Keffals they drew, and the caption, since caricatures aren't allowed anymore, here's a representation of Keffals' work and personality over the couple years a la Goya. All devouring, only destruction in her path. In honor of the worm. Hashtag Justice for Worm. Comment Cop shows Worm's art of Keffals next to an actual picture of Keffals and says, laughing my fucking ass off, why were people acting like this drawing is transphobic and not an accurate depiction of Keffals? Human responds, because they have no other argument. Turkey Tom quote tweets Comment Cop and says, because they must use anything to distract from the fact that Keffals lied about the swatting, slandered people, shadow realmed $100,000, and funded a website that proudly sent hormones, who knows what it was, to children, talking about a 90-minute video. But what about the thumbnail? And then Tom shows a picture of him handing you a note that says, losers, creeps, pedos. You. But not every creator was against Keffals, as Bad Empanada mocked Mutahar when he tweeted out his video and said, is this guy at all aware of what he looks like? Rosara Leah responds, Keffals encouraged kids to take hormones without doctor supervision. Do you know how dangerous that is? I get how appealing it is for trans kids to want to get started on hormones. Believe me, I was a trans kid. But the risk you take for short-term happiness will fuck up your long-term happiness. There are reasons you need doctor approval for hormones, and fucking your body up isn't worth it. Going back to Bad Empanada, he quote tweets himself and says, this guy said he reached out to me, but I didn't respond in this video, laughing my fucking ass off. The reaching out in question was a single Instagram DM which he sent from a fresh account with no followers, so it got spam filtered. He then shows the DM that he got from Muta on April 26, where Muta said, hey, I run the channel SomeOrdinaryGamers, and I'm currently working on a story on a controversial figure. Your personal information is making the rounds, and if it's okay with you, can we possibly confirm its validity? Mutahar then quote tweets Bad Empanada and says, you can always tag me. That's my real and only Insta account. The platform only allows you to send one message before forcing you to wait for a response. I'm not going to make a burner just to keep reaching out constantly. Brando VA responds to Muta by saying, these people are beyond bad faith, trying desperately to discredit you. And all you did was due diligence and research exposing a criminal that scammed people for $100,000 and had inappropriate flirtations with teens openly and selling drugs illegally. All the people trying to attack you and cover up degenerate behavior needs to be reported and investigated as soon as possible. Notice how they don't deny anything you actually said. They know what they are doing, and it's despicable. A popular tweet that was going against Mutahar is this one from PsychoCut, who says, "Incredible journalistic integrity," showing the Muta video announcement, and some tweets from FemGirlVR, who was shown in Mutahar's video, saying, "Don't like Mutahar, low-key implying Keffals groomed me." Kirby4242 responds, "Holy heck, he didn't even reach out to you?" And then FemGirlVR responds, "Nah." PsychoCut continues by saying, "I reached out to win for comment and consent before posting this, meaning I'm a more trustworthy journalist than Mutahar." SmaggleDaggle says, "I don't think we watched the same video if you thought that Muta implied she was groomed by Keffals. All it was showing was the kind of sus behavior she was partaking in with a minor at the time. Also, the worm art isn't transphobic." Willow the Wisp says, "Reminder that right before he announced this video, he made a long video criticizing Mama Max for spreading false/unconfirmed allegations with little proof, and made another video about how people need to stop going to YouTubers to investigate criminals and should go to the authorities." PsychoCut responds, "He has the brain of a snail, god damn." Big Bungie quote tweets PsychoCut with this gif in the caption, "Trans community on their way to defend she/her criminals." Mutahar quote tweets PsychoCut and says, "I highly implore you to actually watch the content and prove where I made an allegation of grooming. I didn't reach out since the point of that section showed inappropriate interactions online with a minor. Again, please try to disprove anything. If you believe interacting with a minor online with any flirtation, then you are severely wrong and should be investigated." Unseelyset responds by saying, "Right, and why the UE of a literal transphobic caricature from the farms on the thumb? Couldn't have you been the better person?" Mutahar responds, "I hired an artist whose work I enjoyed when they portrayed me. I never had any intention of making a transphobic caricature. I simply enjoyed their portrayal of me and found the style striking in a few other thumbnails on YouTube and ordered a commission." Mel Jeffries says, "It's a great video. My favorite part is where Keffals implies the GoFundMe funds were misappropriated." He then shows a screenshot of Clara admitting that from the video. PsychoCut says, "Hey man, care to explain your audience?" Showing a bunch of transphobic tweets they got on Twitter. Judgment Day responds, "He doesn't have to. He's not responsible for his audience's behavior." PsychoCut responds, "When he makes videos harassing trans women as young as 18, absolutely he is." Right Trox says, "I don't know. Do you mind watching the video or disproving his point? Just asking, since so far no one is attacking anything he actually said." PsychoCut responds, "The 18-year-old girl he's directing harassment toward already did that." Josh says, "Transgenders on Twitter are currently debating if an unflattering caricature from a former Kiwi Farms user invalidates 90 minutes of irrefutable, independently archived evidence demonstrating financial fraud, pathological deception, and advertising unregulated drugs to teen boys." Keemstar comments on all of this in a Twitter video titled, "Keffals is a con thing."
I have had a million Keemstar exposed videos made on me throughout the years. And when they use a picture of me for the thumbnail, it's never flattering. It's never flattering. And am I complaining about that? No. I'm trying to just make the point that if you're going to make a video criticizing someone, you don't try to make that person you're criticizing look as good as possible. Duh. That is common sense. Well, Mutahar, SomeOrdinaryGamers, uploaded a video on Keffals with a drawing of her that made her look extra ugly, and her response is, "You're being transphobic because you're making me look ugly." What? What? This is not a trans issue. You're being criticized, so obviously the picture of you in the thumbnail is never going to be flattering. Whether you're a girl, a guy, a fucking trans, or a fucking Apache helicopter.
Tipster reacts to all of this by showing that Mutahar's video announcement was retweeted by StoneToss Comics and captions it by saying, "Congrats, Muta. A literal Nazi retweeted you. You must be proud." Nick Diorio shows this and says, "He's like all the stereotypes slammed into one." Matt Pitt responds by showing this Tipster tweet and saying, "I can literally hear 2021 Tipster say, 'Homie, just because someone retweets you doesn't mean you approve of their politics.' Cringe, my dude. Like you could could possibly legit go through his catalog and find that take. And then he shows the tipster tweet that says, getting retweeted by a literal Nazi isn't exactly a glowing endorsement of your hit piece video. Yikes. Nick responds to Matt by saying, I pray this guy makes himself unemployable and is forced to keep flopping around for our amusement. Mikey Perk says, wild. I have yet to see them address the details of the video, only things that could pivot away from it. Nick responds, if I had to guess, it's because he endorses it. His whole MO is playing just stupid enough to pretend he was impartial later. He is 10 times the degenerate everyone he defends is. Chris the Narc reacts to Tipster's tweet by saying, great calling Stone Toss a Nazi. What else do they have? Will Tipster comment on what Keffals told him in private to change his perspective on her GoFundMe and Catboy Ranch, other than doing bullshit virtue signaling over just a worm and Stone Toss? Or will they not acknowledge the information in the video? Zay responds by showing a response they made to Tipster, where they say, you're defending someone who sent hormones to minors and defended fucking Lolly, and then showing that he got blocked by Tipster. And if you want to learn all about that, I have a video on this channel covering the Tipster controversy that you can check out later. But not only can you check out that older Tipster controversy, but we have an even newer one, with this DM leak posted by Nicholas Diorio between Tipster and someone called Cherry, where Cherry starts out by saying, I wish you would ditch Keffals is how I feel about you. Tipster responds, that's not gonna happen, Cherry. I hope you understand that. Even if she raped someone? I assume there are some scenarios where you would ditch, or cheated on her wife with e-girls but actually did. Tipster responds, that's one of those things that I would tackle if that happened. I don't like to think of my friends in hypotheticals like that. The same applies to you and my other friends, by the way, not just her. Nick reacts to this by saying, this is actually the wrong answer to this hypothetical, by the way. Papa Uwu X responds by saying, what dirt does Keffals have on Tipster? Keemstar shows this thumbnail of Tipster on a video titled, I sexually identify as a failure. Tipster continues to defend Keffals by quote tweeting a year-old tweet explaining how he's in favor of trans youth having access to gender-affirming care, and captions it by saying, I said it then and I'll say it again now. Trans kids are valid, and gender-affirming care, including for minors, saves lives. I said what I said. Don't like it? Cope. Mr. Zombrex responds, if that is true, let kid get tattoos and drink alcohol. Tipster responds, getting a tattoo and drinking alcohol does not equal getting healthcare. Tipster then tweets out some very gross transphobic tweets for all of his audience to see, and captions it by saying, when all the worst people on the internet are cheering you on, you really should start to question how virtuous your actions really are. Fire Pappy Cholo responds to Tipster by saying, Tipster taking a few minutes out of his day from defending Lolly. Shark says, calm down, fatty. So that's about it for what I wanted to show you guys today, but this is far from everything that happened on Twitter in regards to this, as Keffals supporters got so heated and delusional that they ended up calling Mutahar's wife a Nazi, and I will cover all of that in the next video. So subscribe to this channel if you don't want to miss that. I gave my in-depth thoughts on everything, including Mutahar's video on Keffals, in this video on my other channel, Mayo Monkey, where I give my opinions. So if you were interested in that video will be linked on the end screen right now. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this in the comment section below. And with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.